Welcome to Okon Bros. This is Eric.
And I'm Michael. And today we have a very, very special and important guest. We have Jonathan Deckter. He is the COO and president of Voltage Pictures. And he's the executive producer of the blockbuster comedy I Feel Pretty, starring Amy Schumer, and Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, starring Zac Efron.
Which I would love to start there.
Well, hold on. I'm not done
because
yet.
That
I'm
was
not done.
Okay,
I'm not done.
Okay, hold on.
And he also executive produced Wind River, After, and Colossal with Anne Hathaway, which I must say was an amazing. Like honestly, like there hasn't been a movie that you produced that we have not liked. So
you haven't seen enough of them.
The stuff at Voltage particularly has been unbelievable. And I want to start out with I don't even want to say its name, the Zac Efron movie, the Ted Bundy Zac Efron movie. Go ahead, Eric, because I
watched it and it was chilling, and it was amazingly chilling that like you didn't show anything, and it was just him on the other side of
it. Made me think that Ted Bundy was not a killer.
Was there a debate on how that story was going to be told?
From the beginning, when we read the script, it got sent to us without us knowing it was about Ted Bundy. And in the script, it never says Ted Bundy. He's just a guy called Ted.
Wow.
And as you read it, in the end, you figure out that it's Ted Bundy at a certain point. But, the whole rub of the movie was the way Joe Berlinger, our brilliant director, shot it and crafted it. And Michael Worry, the writer, wrote it. It was meant to make you genuinely question whether or not this was Ted Bundy.
Right.
And, had this movie been made 20 years ago before the internet, it could have been a Crying Game-esque reveal at the very, very end on that much debated scene where you see him swinging a hammer and actually killing a girl.
Right.
But given it's, the movie came out in 2017 or 2018, there are no secrets anymore, and you can't hide something like that from the audience. But, truthfully, it was an amazing team effort. The producers on the movie, Michael Costigan and Ara Kashishian, did a great job. My partner, Nicolas Chartier, also produced it. And, the majority of the credit still goes to Joe, the director, and Zac for delivering an amazing performance.
So like in that situation, like you get that script, was it a no-brainer? Was there a 5-year delay in making the movie, or was it just like, this is good, we're going to go with this? Like how long from when you received it, like what's the history with that script?
We got that script on May 1st. I finalized the deal probably May 5th in the car on the way to the airport to go to Cannes to start selling it 2 days later.
Right.
Wow.
So when something is good, it's just
we go. And we are fortunate enough to be in a position where we can say we're going, and we've got the financing to back it up and partners that we can work with. So for us, the math was pretty simple. A modest budget movie with Zac Efron about a serial killer with a director who's won an Academy Award.
So was Zac Efron always attached to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't imagine anybody else.
Does that sell a movie quicker if a script comes to your desk and says Zac Efron wants to make this movie? Does that?
Oh, absolutely.
It sells it quicker, right?
There are 3 things that help sell a script, or actually 4. The script itself, the cast, the director, and whether or not you've got a predetermined U.S. partner on it. Most movies don't have a predetermined U.S. partner on it, or most independent films don't. So the trick is really finding a script that people like with a director that, people trust and cast that works.
Mm-hmm. Have you always known that you were going to be doing this since you were a young guy? I mean, like what you're doing is honestly, it's been my dream since I'm 5 years, since I've seen Goonies, right? Since I've seen Goonies, really and truly, this is the dream of what I've always wanted to do, what you're doing. Take us all the way back, Jonathan. Take us to the beginning, and like, how did you get into film?
Well, I went to college at the University of Arizona. I grew up outside of Philadelphia and wanted to get the heck out of the city and away from the snow and the cold. And
Where in Philly? Where
Newtown Square,
okay. All
Delaware
right.
County.
Yeah, I didn't peg you for somebody that was born and raised in LA.
Yeah.
No, I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah,
No, totally. I can smell the East Coast off of,
Yes,
coming
absolutely.
from you. Yeah.
So I went to college and, wanted to be a business major, but I was a terrible student and couldn't get past whatever the first math class it was you needed to do to get into business school. And, and one of my friends said, why don't you do media arts? And I said, what's media arts? He said, it's basically film and television. I was like, all right, that sounds fun.
Right.
So went through college and, did a little more than muddled my way through. Wound up doing okay in the stuff in media arts, and then when it came time to graduate, I thought I wanted to be a producer. I didn't really know what it meant, so packed up my stuff, got in a U-Haul, drove out to LA. Rented an apartment, and would literally send out fax resumes out, because back then you faxed resumes,
right?
Off of my brother word processor, and my 4-year-old fax machine that had a line in it.
What year was this?
This was 96.
Very nice.
And I'd walk down to the corner, and if the Hollywood Reporter or Variety had 5 job ads or more, I would buy them, and if not, I would go with my pen and paper and write down what the jobs were and walk back. Because back then, $5 a day on trades, that was that was a meal.
Right.
And I spent the summer banging resumes out. Wound up getting a job at a company called Crossroads 5 Entertainment, which was a bankruptcy reorganization / entertainment company. Started off as the assistant to one of the partners who was the COO, and she was an attorney. Nice woman. Her name was Ann Jacobus. And, looked down the hall, and within 3 months realized I didn't want to go to law school.
Right.
I was never a student.
Right.
And it just so happened that the assistant who worked for the vice president, and the vice president had the cool job in the company. She was the one who brought in the money by licensing the film libraries and got to do sort of the special cool projects. So that girl had left, and I raised my hand and said, $50 a week pay raise and, a cooler job, sign me up.
Right.
So that was, let's see, I started in August. So that was probably November or December, maybe January of 97.
Right.
Then came the AFM, which used to be in February, the American Film Market. And I walked in as the assistant, as my boss's assistant. I had no idea what to expect. And I walked into the Lowe's and saw millions and millions of dollars getting transacted on all of these weird and goofy movies next to, big companies like New Line and Miramax, and thought, I'm home.
Right.
Here's a place where someone who does not have an MBA can go do international business and play with movies.
Right.
It was, other than, finding a job in sports, which, everyone grew up, which I grew up loving, this was the greatest thing in the world, because, movies have always been, I've always loved movies. I don't know anybody who hasn't. And having, studied film in school, getting a deeper understanding of what a good movie was. This was I just felt like I was home.
Right.
So you
I want to hear more of the story. I want to hear more. There's a lot more. There's a lot more to get to Voltage at this point.
Well, I want to ask, obviously you paid your dues, right? And you started from the bottom. When did you have your first big break?
I'll get to that in a sec.
Right.
So basically the flash forward is that was in February, and my boss was pregnant at the time. So she left to go have her baby in either late May or early June. And I just started doing the stuff that came in. And a month after that, the CEO, a wonderful guy named John Hyde, who I'm still very much in touch to this day. He's, basically my Hollywood dad, said, "You got this all under control, kid?" And I said, "No problem, boss." I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I made every mistake you could make. But I figured it out.
Right.
So I did, so eventually, they said, "All right, well, that's your job now." Gave me a little pay bump. And, during that time, we had sold the Canon Pictures film library for a couple of $1 million, which was a really big deal. We sold it at bankruptcy auction. And, I started to sort of find my footing with licensing library product. And from there, worked my butt off for another couple of years until I finally got to the point where the business itself, Crossroad, pivoted. At the same time, the company owned a comic book company and a record label. And I was sort of the international guy or the licensing guy on all of it. And the film libraries had sort of, we had licensed most of them out. The comic book company sort of disappeared. And then it was, do you want to go be the international music guy? And that wasn't particularly exciting to me.
Right.
So my boss owned a few movies, Short Circuit and Flight of the Navigator.
Oh my God. Short Circuit. That was our movie in the 80s.
It's one of the first movies I remember going to a theater and seeing.
We saw that. Our mom took us to the premiere of that. We were friends with the heads of TriStar, right? That was a TriStar movie?
Yep.
Yeah. And we went to the premiere of that. I remember meeting Steve Guttenberg and Fisher Stevens and Ali Sheedy. And Ali Sheedy was in that too. Oh my God.
That movie defines
that's our youth right there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. No, I mean, Johnny Five is definitely still alive.
Yes. Talk about a reboot, maybe.
We can talk about that later, and I'll give you a little bit of insight on that. So, John said to me, I went and had the conversation with him, said, "Look, I really don't want to do this. I'm 24 years old. I want to go kill it in the film world." And he said, "All right, well, here's what you do. Take these couple movies I own, go build yourself a sales agency."
Wow.
So, I mean, from 96 until much, much later, I sold those two movies, Short Circuit and Flight of the Navigator. Commissions paid the down payment on my first house.
Amazing.
So from there, I went, I was 24 years old, didn't understand a thing about cash flow and what it actually took to run a business. Said, all right, I can do this. So I opened up shop in my living room. 9 months later, I was tens of thousands of dollars in debt, having burnt through every dollar I had ever saved, and sort of had that, oh shit moment.
Right.
I need to start parking my car in other places because I was scared the guy was going to come take it away.
Right.
And I got a job at the Hollywood Reporter selling ads in the independent film sector. Within 2 days of being there, I was, there were great people around and it was a good experience, but it wasn't the game that I wanted to hunt. Running around doing $2,000 deals or $5,000 deals wasn't nearly as exciting as, licensing films and being, part of the action as much as being, a service provider.
Right.
So within the first week, I wrote a list out of 5 companies and said, within a year, I'm going to go work at one of these places selling movies. The list was New Line, Miramax, Morgan Creek, Franchise, and I forget who the 5th one was. So I probably devoted a little more time and effort to those clients than I should have. And within 9 months, I got a job at Morgan Creek as a vice president of sales.
With James G. Robinson.
So what is, as vice president of sales, what does that mean?
Hold on, Eric. What'd you say, John? What'd you say, John?
And there began my relationship with BLS.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly right.
I think up until,
what are we, 20 years strong now? We're 20 years strong? Unbelievable. So that's a testament to our company, Eric. A testament to mom and dad's company.
No question about it. And I mean, up until, I don't know, 3, 4 years ago, I think I still had Morgan Creek listed as my company because they
Yes,
You
had
did.
great
yes, you
rates.
did. Yep. And Mr. Robinson still has that account,
Yep.
/ Morgan Creek. And then you guys had to deal with Warner Brothers, I believe, right? That was the first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I
I
stayed
didn't
at Morgan.
research. I didn't research this, by the way. This is all. This is like I remember that from the system. That's so funny.
That is. So there I walked in the doors, and when I got that job and I looked on the walls and I saw Major League, Young Guns,
Yep.
Epic.
Robin Hood,
Epic.
Last of the
Yeah.
Mohicans, True Romance, Ace Ventura, and
Those are
was
our
just
movies.
like,
Oh my god. Oh
I
my
get to play
god.
with these toys.
Yes. Yes.
I was a kid in the candy store.
I believe it.
I was 25 years old, with an office in the Warner Brothers lot,
Just living the
grinding
dream.
away, doing
Yeah.
millions of dollars of business a year. People were calling me. I wasn't hustling to call them. And I thought, wow, I like this. This is
Yep.
cool. So when I was at Morgan Creek, we made some great films. We made The Good Shepherd, which was
De
a
Niro.
$90 million movie that De Niro directed with Matt
Yep.
Damon and Angelina Jolie. It was one of the biggest independent movies that was ever made at the time.
We did the premiere. I remember.
I'm sure.
I worked that premiere in college. I'll never forget. I was like, come on, we need you. De Niro's premiere tonight.
That's funny.
Put on my suit. Yep.
So we made that movie. We made Exorcist: The Beginning with Rennie Harlan, who I'm still in touch with.
Are you really? Oh my god.
We did.
I saw
movie.
him. Go ahead. Rennie Harlan's been a client of ours for 30 plus years.
Yeah, Rennie's great. Great guy. We did a movie called American Outlaws, which was one of my favorite, underrated movies of all time with Colin Farrell and Scott Conn. It was the Jesse James story, which, I remember the debate internally on whether we called it Young Guns 3 or not.
Amazing.
I love that movie.
Young
was
Guns?
like that. I think, what year was that?
That was
89, I think, or 91.
No, it was like that was
no,
the 90s.
American Outlaws was 2001.
2001.
Yeah. It's just that time period.
Yeah,
go
but
ahead.
that was your youth, Eric. I mean, that's
Yeah.
when you were growing up. That was
I was 18.
And the last one that I remember fondly was we made a movie called Two for the Money with Matthew McConaughey and Al Pacino.
Yes.
That DJ Caruso directed about a sports town.
Yep.
Which that was again, that was a great script. Love that movie. So I spent 5 years learning and busting my butt working for Jim, and grew to be very close with his sons Brian and David, who I'm sure you guys know both very well.
Yep.
And from there, I sort of hit my ceiling at that point because what we did at Morgan Creek was we made big studio level movies, and we had a catalog, and that was the business. There is a whole world, and especially in 2005 when DVD was booming, there's a whole world of different independent cinema, foreign language movies that, as a 30-year-old, I wanted to learn and experience. So I left and went to an independent company called ArcLight, where we delivered movies like Lord of War.
It's a great movie.
Nick Cage. Yep. That opening shot, I still think about that opening shot. When I write that shot of the bullet traveling from production into the guy's, it was the body of the head, but I remember the bullet went through him.
Yep.
That was incredible. It was one shot following one bullet.
I remember seeing that in a rough cut when the effects weren't finished, thinking, what the hell am I looking at?
Oh my God. It's still, I mean, that movie's 20 years old now. That movie still has an impact on the way I write.
It's amazing.
It really is.
It's a great cast. The director was great, and everything about it, that was a big independent movie. Right. And in addition to that, we were in the Hong Kong cinema business. So I sold early Donnie Yen movies, some middle Jackie Chan movies, and the company was Australian based. So I learned that industry as well a bit. But that's, after 2 years there, I got a little bit itchy and wound up going over to Lakeshore Entertainment and working for Tom Rosenberg, which was sort of like a Morgan Creek 2.0 for me.
Right.
Because, they had made Underworld.
Right. Unbelievable films.
My Best Friend's Wedding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or not My Best Friend, Runaway Bride.
Runaway Bride, right.
And they owned a very, very deep catalog of great movies that we all grew up with in the 80s. And we made some really interesting, fun films there. We made a reboot of Fame, which was, it was the first time in my career where we had over collateralized a movie out of foreign and then some. Which what that means is we had sold more than what the budget was out of foreign distribution, which, that was sort of unheard of at that point. But the brand, just a testament to the power of the brand. It was a first-time director, and that was an incredibly interesting experience as well. And from there, again, 3 years later, so this is 2010, where we had gone through 2008, which was the only thing that is even close to as bad as it is today, when the world economy crashed, DVD crashed at the same time, and then there was a writer's strike, which basically shut the business down for 6 months.
That was behind COVID-19, COVID, that writer strike that decimated us.
It
decimated
killed
our
us
business.
all. And in the very beginning of COVID, I just kept saying, it's starting to feel like 2008 again.
100%. 100%. And we always said, when people go, oh, how did the Great Recession affect you guys? And we always told people not to brag, but the Great Recession didn't affect us. They were still making movies.
We cut so much when the writer strike happened, but that by the time the recession rolled out, we were already so lean.
But that writer strike,
we were ready for the writer strike. I mean, COVID, this is the end of the world. So
this is a whole different level, right?
Yeah.
Of baloney. But please continue. I can listen to you for the next 5 hours of like how the movies that you worked on and who this is
like I have so many questions. Like, the movies that you made are like define generations, and like, is that possible to make those movies today like that? Because like today with the tentpole movies where they're always big budget and those are the ones that are really going to see, is there room for those types of classics out? Is it like, did Netflix help with that because it gives it a place for people to watch it?
Well, let me go back and first say that, no single person ever makes a movie alone. There are, it is the ultimate team effort. I have been fortunate enough to have a small hand in some and a slightly bigger hand in others. But, as my role today as an executive producer, there are, dozens and dozens and dozens of people who are far more important to the actual movie and the production and the creative side, if not hundreds or even thousands than I am. But I guess the answer to that is, you never know what's going to pin into the zeitgeist and make those movies. But I think that with our movie After, that we've got After #2 coming out this fall worldwide, I think that's a movie that has hit into that cultural zeitgeist because it was based on a series of books that Anna Todd wrote that have been read over 1 billion times across the world.
Right.
And I'm not sure if you've seen it or not, but it's, it's Romeo and Juliet. It's really a love story about a girl who goes to college for the first time and meets the bad boy, and they fall in love.
I want to go back to what you were saying before, but I want to talk about your journey more. But what you just said, and I've heard this a million times: give me the same thing, but make it different. Give me Romeo and Juliet, but make it different. Give me Ghost, but make it different. Does that hold up as an executive producer that's reading scripts? That's, you're the gatekeepers to create someone's career. Is that terminology still relevant?
Sure. Well, I mean, it goes back to, what we all learned in seventh grade English class. There are only 7 stories.
100%. Yes.
So everything is just a take on something else. Now,
That's Save the Cat. That's Save the Cat 101. I don't know if you've ever read Save the Cat. I'm sure you have. No?
It's
a screenwriting book. Yeah, it's a screenwriting book, and it goes on Joseph Campbell's The Hero with 1,000 Faces, that talks about the themes of movies. There's really only 7 stories told in the world, and you have to choose that movie and then beat out that film. And, but give me the same thing, but make it different.
Well, I think that has evolved a bit, in the day and age where there are genre bending movies.
Yes. Tarantino doesn't ascribe to give me the same thing, but make it different. Stanley Kubrick didn't say, give me the same thing, but make it different.
Well, there are some people that are truly exceptional.
Yes.
At what
but
they
even with Tarantino, who I love, I mean, you see where he draws inspiration in every movie, whether it's Kurosawa or it's,
100%.
Scorsese or.
You can't see it, but he's on my wall. He's on my wall. He's my hero. As a writer, Tarantino is my absolute hero. He's my hero.
Have you ever had a chance to actually read one of his scripts?
I've read them all. They're novels. They're novels. Yeah. He adapts a novel into a screenplay, and I do the opposite. I write the script first, and then I turn my script into a novel. But he's adapting his screenplay like a novel into film. I haven't read Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I can't find that script anywhere.
I haven't read that one, but I'll never forget when I read. It was either Inglourious or Django.
Yep.
But it was the first time I had ever read a script that he wrote, and there were crossouts and handwritten notes and misspellings, and I'm thinking, this is the greatest writer of all time.
Yes.
And this is his process. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
100%. He does it long form. He doesn't type his scripts. He does everything. He writes it out. I read Death Proof. One of the coolest movies ever. And for that to put from his mind to the pen to the paper, a chase scene, like a 35-minute chase scene at the end, you just see genius working. I could talk about Tarantino for hours, but so you went, I forgot where we were even at with your journey, but you weren't at Voltage yet.
No,
we didn't get to Voltage.
No, there's one more stop and then I get to Voltage. So in 2010, I got a call from a guy named Stuart Ford who ran a company called I Am Global. I Am Global had recently got acquired by Reliance Entertainment, which was a huge Indian conglomerate.
Right.
At the time, they were making a pretty big play in Hollywood.
They backed Dreamworks, right?
They bought Dreamworks.
They did Lincoln.
They did talent deals, $1 million a year overheads with sort of the top 20 guys creatively in town. And they bought this little independent sales company with the idea of, all right, we're going to be in the studio business. We're in the talent business. Let's be in the independent film business. So he called and, offered me a great opportunity to go further expand what I was doing. And it was, it was a no-brainer for me at the time because I got to play with bigger and different toys.
That's not the BLS car that's waiting outside, right? Okay.
No, it's a few hours early.
Okay, fair enough.
And, over 5 years, I don't remember the amount of movies we made, but I think we turned over $700 or $800 million in business. We worked on all of Jason Blum's movies. We built out his foreign infrastructure at the time.
Talk about a prolific filmmaker. He's off the charts.
There is nobody in the world like Jason.
100%. 100%.
And we were lucky enough. We did, Paranormal Activity came before I got there, and then we did Insidious. We
did The Purge.
Sinister.
You did The Purge.
No, by the time The Purge came, Jason had made his deal with Universal and started moving his movies into the studio system. But we had a good 3 or 4 year run where we were just killing it with these movies.
Oh, $5 million movie, then generating $100 million in revenue. It's like going to a craps table and never crapping out.
Exactly. I mean, and the beauty of it for us is these movies all worked great overseas, and they weren't hugely expensive, so we could deliver them to our clients at moderate prices.
Right.
And everyone was making a killing.
Right.
That's the beauty of those scary type movies.
There's no question.
Horror, it's horror, it's monster in the house. And if you ever read Save the Cat, it's the Bible for all screenwriters except Tarantino. That monster in the house, you need three things. You need a monster, you need a house, and you need a sin. And Spielberg did that with Jaws. He had the monster. The sin was not opening the beaches, kind of like
being
today.
greedy,
yeah. Right? The sin of greed by opening the beaches during July 4th weekend, and the house, which was Amity, and that nobody could leave, they couldn't escape. So that's like a quintessential monster in the house movie, and like Blumhouse does that, right?
Yeah.
Like Blumhouse that has those three things.
The most literal movie like that, and I don't know who made this movie, but it's Quarantine. That's the most literal monster in the house movie that I think has ever been made, where they're stuck in, they are quarantined inside and they cannot leave when there's a monster in that building.
Like zombie vampires chasing them or some shit.
Right.
Funny. So, we had a great run at IM Global, and over the years, my partner now, Nicolas Chartier, he and I go back forever. We're the same age. We started in the business at the same time.
26, 27. Just come
on. 46.
46. All right.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Jonathan, you got 4 years on me, man. I turned 42 in May, so.
May what?
May 26th.
I'm May 22nd. So
no, you're
4
not.
years and 4 days. Yep.
All right, man.
I knew you guys would be connected. Those Gemini.
Listen, I got to tell you, Jonathan,
they stick together.
We've had a relationship now for a few years, but he would call me on my cell phone, ask me questions, everything, and I always asked him for writing advice. It was just, we clicked, and just to be on this podcast.
I'm not surprised.
Oh, you're Gemini, right? May 22nd is Gemini.
Yeah. First day.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna make a movie at some point together.
Absolutely, and it very well may be Pokergeist, which half the team read and everybody had a great time with it. So it's on my Kindle for the weekend.
Wow! Oh my God, that's incredible. That's the thing that I wanted to hear for the last 42 years of my life. That's amazing. Thank you. It's amazing.
For anyone interested, Michael wrote a book and a screenplay called Pokergeist.
Pokergeist, and I don't want to spoil. I want Jonathan to read it because I literally just
give the log line.
Well, a novice poker player must get a degenerate gambling ghost off his back by winning the World Series of Poker. I think I botched the log line, but I'm like,
that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But it won the grand. I'm not trying to sell it to you, Jonathan. Well, I kind of am, but like I'm not really selling it. But like it won the grand jury prize at the New York Screenwriting Contest in New York. It has about 20 something awards. And it's literally it's The Hangover meets Ghost. It is the quintessential. It's a Vegas movie, and I'm a Vegas guy. Vegas is my city, and I'm a spiritual guy, and that's what the story of Pokergeist is. But I can't believe that it got like the next level.
It made the rounds.
It made the rounds, and you got good feedback. I'm hoping.
Great feedback. So I'm excited to read it this weekend.
Thank you. We should do another podcast, and he should announce live on the podcast. Michael, I'd like to.
Well, you never know.
I actually think that, if we get there, I'm going to make the deal with you on the podcast because you're not going to be able to say no to me.
No, probably. I don't know if I should have my manager on the podcast at this point, but I'm starting to sweat really badly right now. So let's go back to your journey.
And I have a feeling that Eric will get on my side pretty quickly.
100%.
No, the answer is yes. So it's
yeah, right. We want to give you a Snickers bar. Yes, done. I have questions. I want to hear more about how you got there, and remind me about manager. I want to hear about how do people get to you? Right, you're the gatekeeper. How do people get to you? I mean, I got to you through my manager. Right, I have a manager. I have an entertainment attorney. They are the Illuminati. I call them the Illuminati because they're the ones pulling the strings behind the curtain that I have to dance and do this and everything for them.
Because we're self-starters. Like everything we do, like when we were self-publishing books, like book every 3 months. Like we were quick about it, and that's the way we run BLS. We like going quickly, and then all of a sudden Michael got signed.
I got published,
and then they were like,
I just did a podcast about this.
Stop.
I was putting out 3 books a year. I had about 40 screenplays in my closet, give or take from college, my college writing days. And I started turning them out into novels. And, started getting noticed, and that's how I got the manager, and that's how I got, the entertainment attorney, the whole 9 yards. And I'm rep by Susan Grode from Cat Muchin. Her son Josh is running Legendary.
Yep.
You know them, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I know Josh.
Yeah.
I remember Josh when he was an attorney.
Really? Yeah.
Yep.
Like our West Coast family. Like Susan is at my West Coast mom. I trust this woman with my life and my children. And then now I'm signed with John Levin, who you know.
Of course.
Who apparently
Legendary.
Everyone knows this man. And like, I was rep by Paradigm, and no offense to Paradigm, they were great people, lovely people, but I was kind of steered to go in the direction of John, and John is like sitting with him is like Buddha. It's like, what do I do now? Like, he calls me young Padawan, like, Luke, and he's like King, he's like Obi-Wan,
and I'm Chewbacca.
Well, you're like a porg. You're like a porg from The Last Jedi. You're like those little things that fly. It's like you just shoot them away.
I got this podcast.
Yeah, you do it. Yeah. Well, when Jonathan signs me and I make it big, I mean, it's going to be the Okon podcast instead of the Okon bro. No, I'm teasing. I'm never leaving. I'm never leaving. Anyway, how the hell did you start? Did you start Voltage with Nicolas? Or
no, Nick started funny stories. So, as I was saying, Nick and I had been friends forever.
Right.
We sort of grew up in the business together, and it happened to be, when he left ArcLight, that's what I joined. Okay. He left ArcLight and went and started Voltage the next day.
How did he do that? How do you start an independent studio?
Well, it didn't start off as a studio. It started off as a sales agent, where he would go and represent films. And Nick was fortunate enough to develop a relationship with a guy named Dean Devlin, who's made some special effects on a few movies.
Independence Day, Dean Devlin.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, Dean had produced a made-for-TV movie called The Librarian that ArcLight sold, and Nick and he developed a relationship. And at one point, Nick said, "I want to go do this," and Dean said, "I'll back you. We can partner." So that was 2005. We started the company with nothing, and I think he bought Dean out a year or two later. And the Voltage story is far, far more interesting than mine.
I don't know about that, Jonathan. This is incredible. This is incredible, your story.
Well, I'll dive into the Voltage side a little bit, and then it'll dovetail into me joining. So in 2008, Nick had one other employee. He had 3 years of steam behind him. So it was actually 2007 because the movie came out in 2008. And he went out, and the first thing he wanted to start producing movies. Mm-hmm. So the first thing he did, and the thing that we do here all the time, is, all right, what great directors haven't been working lately for whatever reason? And Nick found his way to say, all right, what's Catherine doing? Calls up her Catherine Bigelow, that is, calls up her agent and says, what does she want to do? And he gets a script called The Hurt Locker.
Hurt Locker. Oh my God.
First movie he ever produced.
The first movie?
It turns out to be The Hurt Locker. And I am sure that most of it,
lightning in a bottle.
Well, it's even more than that, as most people forget, but The Hurt Locker was released, and it only did about $10 million in box office. It was released in the summer. Got pretty good reviews, but all anyone wanted to talk about that year was Avatar. So then
10 years ago, 11 years ago.
Yeah. So then comes, Golden Globes and Academy nomination times, and all of a sudden, Hurt Locker's in the race.
Right.
And all of a sudden, David just kicked Goliath's ass.
Seriously.
And won up and down the board. And that vaulted Nick's, business into the next stratosphere.
Amazing.
From there, he went on to finance Dallas Buyers Club. So
unbelievable.
Had another taste of the Academy Awards.
Unbelievable. Jared Leto's performance. I don't know, like talk
Matthew
about
Matthew McConaughey.
Yes, but like a method actor like Leto, where like did you see that picture where he was stick thin, Eric?
Yeah,
where he was sucking. Unbelievable.
And McConaughey did it too. And
Yeah,
all
I
the
know.
while, and one of the things that drew me to Voltage was Nick continued to make Steven Seagal movie after Steven Seagal movie after Steven Seagal movie, paying bills, paying bills, paying bills. We like to say around here that Steven Seagal built this house more than anybody else.
Steamroller Productions, Steamroller Films, I think was Steven Seagal's shingle, and
Yep.
he was a client for many years.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So all of that, so Nick continues to be incredibly successful navigating the waters. And this sort of leads us up to 2015 where, he said, I want to grow again. I want to grow further. You want to come over and partner with me? And I thought, yeah, this would be fun.
Yeah.
Same age, you've got, this amazing credibility. You've built an amazing business. You want to go start trying to, take over the world. I'm in.
Love it.
So that was 2015. And, here we are. I don't know, some 300 million in box office later, having, put another 20 or 30 productions into the ecosystem. Some of those great movies that you've named, whether it's I Feel Pretty or Wind River, where we had a big hand, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile, the After series, Colossal. So we've done a lot of stuff that we're incredibly proud of.
How did I Feel Pretty come across? I mean, Amy Schumer was like, that was the BLS car. Your car's outside, sir. Do you want to?
No, that was your Aunt Marilyn yelling at me because I'm not outside.
Jonathan, why aren't you paying the fucking bills, Jonathan?
She's never asked me that. She said, "Why don't you call me first?"
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Marilyn, when there's a problem.
Marilyn is our mom who started the company with our father. It's my mom's little brother, his ex-wife.
Yeah.
And
we got her in the divorce.
We got Marilyn in the divorce.
You won. She's the best.
She is the best. She's going to flip out when she hears this podcast. I will tell you that much. She goes, Jonathan.
She loves nothing more. Yeah. She loves nothing more than when people talk about her.
Yes.
Nothing
yes.
more.
Especially, yes. He knows me.
That's her thing.
Yes. Yeah. And the fact that you spoke about Aunt Marilyn, who's our senior VP of global accounts at BLS, is this is going to go.
She's a character of herself.
Yeah,
no question about it.
Yeah. If you need a certain character in Pokergeist, Marilyn would be. Yeah, she's been a lot of inspiration for my writings. But anyway,
so here's the story with I Feel Pretty. So we read the script, and we go into our script meeting.
How did you get it? Like, was that submitted to you? What did you find it off the street?
A producer who worked here, a woman named Alyssa Phillips, whose job was to run around and find scripts and make movies, got it from Sony International, who was going to make it but decided not to. And there were producers on the movie already, Wonderland Films, which is McGee and Mary Viola, who we had done some business with.
Right.
And we read the script, and again, this is sometime in March. Came in on Monday morning, and we all talked about it. And somebody, and I don't remember who, said, "We got to go to Amy Schumer with this."
Wow.
So she wasn't attached to it.
No, she wasn't attached. So Nicholas and I and one of our colleagues, Dominic, got in the car, drove over to UTA, sat in a room, with her agents, and literally made it. Didn't leave until we made a deal. It was one of those very old school Hollywood moments, which, was not only an effective way to do it, but it plays good to story. And, we went off the can 2 weeks later, and, we struck gold.
Yep.
STX came in and bought the US and the UK for a big number. We had an incredible response from our foreign partners and sold the movie out in 4 days or 5 days, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. Went and shot in Boston late summer, early fall. And by March or April, I forget when it was released, we were in theaters, and the movie did $99 million worldwide box office.
It's incredible.
It was one of the few comedies, and this is a true credit to our foreign partners, where foreign outperformed domestic.
Wow.
And that's not to say that the domestic guys didn't do a great job. It just, the movie just hit on his zeitgeist.
So
I have a question. As an executive producer, what's your job as an EP? Like what do you do from start to finish?
Structuring finance, figuring out if they're, figuring out what the tax credit situation is. Those are the real main things. Obviously when there is a domestic deal to be done, that's sort of, that's not a normal executive producer thing, but that's one of the things that I do. Oversee some really boring stuff, like, grind the bond company guys, grind the insurance guys, occasionally, occasionally show up and, solve a problem or be a nice person or be a heavy. But that's, far fewer, and there are the actual producers do a lot more of that lifting than an EP does.
Do you have to live in LA to be a producer, Jonathan?
You don't have to, but I mean, it sort of helps. Just, or let me put it this way. 6 months ago, I would have said you kind of have to, because you need to be able to get in your car and go see people. Now everything's over Zoom. So,
So that's what I wanted to get to next. COVID-19 and production and your job now, when do you think they're going to start making movies again? I know they're making some movies now, but like, what's the game plan as far as getting back to work and, going back to the office, getting back to work, getting productions back going?
Well, there's a couple of hitches to that. Most films that are financed independently have banks and bond companies, and until there is an insurance product, which doesn't exist today, that insures against COVID, it's impossible to get a bond or a bank loan. So the only way to make a movie today is to self-insure, which means, you put yourself on the hook for a whole lot of cash if there's an incident. And again, going back to, one of the other tragic events of our lives, which I'm sure impacted you guys greatly, going back to September 11th, it took a year for the government to come up with terrorism-related insurance. So that, and surprisingly, looking at the world today, if I was to look back, I would think, well, how the hell did they ever do a live sports event when they didn't have insurance against, terrorism? And I guess, not my business, but I guess they just did it and, took every security measure they could and crossed their fingers and closed their eyes until the event was over. So, I mean, the answer to when we'll get back to production in full, I have no idea. There are smaller productions that are being done. We are looking at self-insuring on a few things. The bigger companies, the studios, the Netflixes, they have the ability to self-insure far greater than an independent company does. Most of the movies we make are a rounding error for a studio or for a Netflix. So for our business, what we've done in the short term is we've pivoted our business away from the bigger pre-sale movies and have looked to find the best available VOD content we could to serve our clients and just sort of keep the world moving.
Do you think the movie theater's dead? Do you think everything that Netflix and Hulu are the future of everything?
No, I don't think the movie theaters are dead. I don't think the movies will ever die. And the best analogy I can give on that is, I'm not sure if you guys are barbecue guys, but
every day.
I can order the finest steak in the world from Crowd Cow and go cook it on my DCS barbecue, but you bet your ass I'm going to Mastro's and drinking a martini and eating a steak the minute I can.
Right. It's the God's honest truth, though.
It's the truth. That's the absolute truth.
And, the same way that there is nothing like the experience of a restaurant, as a film fan, there is nothing like sitting there with a bucket of popcorn the size of your head, watching the lights go down and watching one of these movies that just is transformative to you.
You want to hear what has kept me up at night during COVID? you know, I've written, I want one of my stuff to be turned into a movie or whatever the case. And I was terrified. And listen, if it ended up on Netflix or Amazon, I would have been happy with it. But I always wanted to go to my own premiere. Right. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, this is never going to happen. The movie theater, could it be dead? But you give me a lot of hope to know that the movies will come back. That yes, like I'm a movie guy, big time movie guy, and sitting in a theater with my son and I are huge Marvel fans. We're huge Star Wars fans. Like
Us too.
yeah, huge. And you know, watching Black Panther on your TV is amazing and it's great. But watching Black Panther in a theater with a crowd is like nothing.
It creates energy.
It creates energy. That's exactly right.
No, but there's no question about that. I mean, father of the year that I am, I took my 2 at the time 5.5-year-olds to go see Endgame.
Completely appropriate. It's fine.
It's fine. It's Marvel.
One of them tapped out right in the beginning of the 3rd act when when they came in, and he was like, "Daddy, I want to leave," and I was like, "Okay." We left and went and had burgers and milkshakes or whatever, and I was like, I need to see the end of this movie. And my other son, I have twin boys who are now 6, and I said, do you want to go back and see it tomorrow? And he said, yeah, Dad. So I found tickets at 6 a.m. Took my son, we rewatched the entire thing, had popcorn for breakfast, and that's a lifetime memory for us.
100. I took my son. I have a 12-year-old boy. He's going to be 12 in like 5 days, 9 days. He's going to be 12 years old. I took him and 2 of his friends to the premiere of Infinity War in the city in New York. Disney was holding a special screening, and his friends, when he still talks to them, they still talk about Kevin Smith was in the audience, and they didn't know who Kevin Smith was. And I'm like,
tell the story about Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith, real quick story about Kevin Smith. And I don't talk to celebrities. We used to fly MGM Airlines. Do you remember MGM Grand Airlines? So like
we used to have like your own pod.
Johnny Depp would come by, and like we just didn't care. Like we were more excited to talk to like a chef, right? Out of all,
I was just happy.
Emerald. Right.
This was the time period of this was when Home Alone just came out.
Right.
So they had Home Alone playing while it was still in theaters on the plane.
And
I was just that was all I wanted to do. And I just watched Home Alone over and over and over again on the flights to LA.
We flew back from LA with Bon Jovi, with the band. And I was with my friend, this kid, Jimmy, who was my best friend. My mom took him to LA. We spent all summer in LA because my parents were building the business there. And Bon Jovi saw there was like 2 young boys. Well, Eric was there. Eric didn't care. He was eating and watching Home Alone. Right. But they saw and they go, oh, do you guys want autographs? So I said, yeah, but we got to get autographs for our whole class. So they literally sat and autographed on these MGM Grand napkins to Joey, love John Bon Jovi, to Ricky. And they're just naming off names of our whole class. And, we gave one to Jason. They didn't believe it, right? No one in my, right, not with Bon Jovi. I'm like, we really did. I'm like, Jimmy can attest to it. But I digress.
Well, and you had to be young because, I remember, when the first album came out, I was in 7th grade and I wore that tape out front ways to backwards. So you must have been 3rd, 4th grade.
Slippery when wet.
Yep.
Yes. Eric, what was I asking?
Kevin James.
Kevin Smith. We're watching Infinity War, and I got to tell you, it probably is the best, I think, in my opinion, one of the best Marvel movies. I mean, that was like the Empire Strikes Back of Marvel films. It was a cliffhanger at the end, but when Robert Downey Jr., it's like spoiler alert, but I'm sure everyone on planet Earth has seen Infinity War, when he got stabbed by Thanos, Kevin Smith stood out of his chair in the middle of the theater and screamed, I don't want to scream that loud, no, screaming. And the 3 boys, my son and his 2 friends, were hysterically cracking up. I'm like, do you realize that Kevin Smith just freaked out because he thought that Iron Man just died?
Right.
So these memories that we have of movie theater, right? Then this is what it was all about. Taking my daughter to see Jungle Book. My daughter and I, she's going to be 8 in October. There's nothing like it. And I've always dreamed since I was a little boy, since I saw Goonies. Goonies was the movie that did it for me. And everything I write today is because of that movie.
That's awesome. I actually showed my 6-year-olds Goonies about a month ago.
What did they think?
They loved it.
Back to the Future. Did you do Back to the Future yet?
I haven't done that yet.
What my son and I are rewatching again. Back to the Future is it's just different. It's just a whole other level. I mean, it hits you. It's unbelievable.
We have so much to look forward to with this. I can't wait to start showing them the John Hughes movies.
100%. 100%. I mean, Home Alone is a staple in our house now, right? And like there's Breakfast Club, there's 16 Candles. But what are you guys are Star Wars guys?
Yeah.
Did you do all 9 or you did all 9?
No, we've done all 9. We've done The Mandalorian. I've got a life-size stormtrooper in my house.
Do you really?
Yeah.
So when are you going to make your Star Wars? Is that on your bucket list to say, okay, I'm ready to make a space and what it could be, what kind of space opera is, but do you want to ever go that big? Did you do it already? Right.
Haven't done it, have no plans to do it.
Really?
Those are movies that, these giant corporations make. They're not independent movies. It's not what we're built to do. It's not what our clients are built to release. In the history of independent film, Lord of the Rings, which was huge, the Twilight franchise, which was huge, and Hunger Games, those were as big a swings as you could take. And that was going back some 20 years ago. In today's world, the business is so fragmented that, and there is so much competition for time that, making these $200 million plus movies on an independent level just isn't practical from a financial standpoint. I would far, far rather and more realistically have my hand in a Taxi Driver type of movie.
Right.
Which, we didn't quite, I don't think you put Taxi Driver and Wicked and Extremely Wicked in the same sentence, but you put it in the same paragraph.
100%.
Or, certainly in the same chapter.
Right. That's incredible. So you weren't with Hurt Locker when they won the Oscar, right? Like you weren't with Voltage. Okay. No. Do you ever want to win an Oscar?
I'd love to.
You would.
Yeah. Sure.
Read Pokergeist. No, I'm just kidding. I'm teasing. I always, do you believe in manifesting? Do you believe in kind of putting it out there and letting the universe take it from there? Because that's what.
1,000%. That's how every film is made. Every film is made by. It starts with one person and it builds into a small group of people saying, we're going to push this fucking rock up a hill and we don't care what's in front of us. And that every movie that gets made is a miracle.
It's amazing. That's amazing.
Who are your mentors as far as growing up? Are you like a Tony Robbins guy or a law of attraction person? Are there any books that helped you along the way, or is people that you worked with, who has helped you along the way?
Well, book wise, I think I took my mother's copy of The Godfather when I was 12 years old and read that, and that was pretty impactful.
Yep. Right.
Career wise, I've been fortunate to be around a lot of really smart people who have taught me a lot of things. John Hyde, who was my first boss, taught me a ton. Jim Robinson taught me more than I could ever remember. And I was actually lucky enough to, come back as an adult and sell All Eyes on Me, the Tupac Shakur movie that Jim and David made for Jim. So, it was a surreal experience to sitting in his office and negotiate with this guy who used to make me tremble in my boots and still sort of does.
I have a question. You have a 22-year-old kid right now and wants to do what you're doing. Is it possible if they're starting in 2020?
Doing it the way that I did it, it won't look the way it looks, 24 years from now. He won't be 46 years old, or her won't be 46 years old sitting here doing this the way that I do. I think there are an amazing number of opportunities to create content and license content. And, the way that we're doing it changes every day. And whether it's, taking advantage of YouTube, like all these kids are doing now, or Tubi or TikTok, so the content creation game will never go away. The content distribution game and the content licensing game continues to evolve, on a daily basis.
We're seeing that. Hang on. We're seeing that firsthand now when we started the podcast, and especially posting content on LinkedIn and stuff like that. The minute we started having our own platform, it's been instrumental to our business success. And we could never quite figure out how to create content for our business, and then we eventually figured it out. And it's been amazing to, like what you said, the content game has changed, and we have a podcast, and suddenly were able to have a platform. And that's for the first time in history. No, that's really been hard
Well,
to
and
do.
that's what the technology has done. The technology has broken down the walls.
Right.
It used to be you could see a movie by going to a theater or by going to Blockbuster or watching it on cable. And maybe free television if they were airing them. And that was it.
That's my question to you. And this is more of like a dream of mine again. When you see I Feel Pretty on TV and you see your name on television, does it do something to you? Does it, do you, hey honey, look, look, like, because like, I know how I would feel at this point in my life to say screenplay by Michael Okon or based on the book by Michael Okon. I know how I would feel seeing that on the big screen. Does it strike you? Or do you not even give a shit at this
Business
point?
as usual.
Yeah, it's like business as usual.
Well, my wife likes it more than I do, and
Really?
I'm always happy to see it, and I'm proud of the stuff that we've done. But there's a big difference between serving the role that I serve on a movie and being a screenwriter. When you write a script and the movie goes on to get produced, you live with that movie from the first day to the last day and every day in between and every day after.
Right.
For me, I read a script. We figure out what the financing is. They go away and they make it. I maybe show up to set. I maybe don't, depending on where I am in the world and what's happening.
Right.
Then the movie comes in and we watch a couple cuts and I give some notes that are sometimes decent and sometimes people say, get out of here, business guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we deliver the movie to our partners and we help them release it the best we can and we're on to the next.
Do you feel, do you let artists, I don't know if I can even say this the right way. Do you feel that you have to have your hand in the movie? Like, for I Feel Pretty, did you have to give notes saying reworked act 2, make the fun and games longer? Like, are you controlling
part of the creative process?
Yeah. Do you feel you're part of it or do you let the people create?
I am not part of it. I have a very, 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 very small part. There are, our in-house producers have a lot more, have a lot more impact on that. It's just not what I do. It's not, you don't go to the guy who makes pizzas and ask him about cookies.
Right. Right. That's incredible.
I think with that, we can.
I
know Michael would keep going, but
are you kidding me? I could.
Jonathan's got to get back to work. So.
I know, Jonathan. Thank you. If you want to tell the audience, if you want to reveal your information, you can, or if you're on any social media,
Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Insta. I know you're on LinkedIn because you made a lot. You commented on my 70s movies post, I think about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not particularly active on social media.
So. Well, no one reach out to Jonathan because he's all mine. And Jonathan's going to take all my stuff. So, Jonathan and Michael Okon are going to be, I got to tell you, I'm just putting it out to the universe now. Eric and I always felt that we wanted to make our own studio, right? We always wanted to make our own production company. And
well, I got the name for it. Jokin Productions.
Jokin, right?
Jokin Productions.
I'm sure everyone will take us very seriously. We actually came up with one. We always wanted to call it Original Asteroid. I don't know why, but we always like
random
Original Asteroid, Original Asteroid Films. And it just Voltage is like one of the coolest names ever. Voltage and Legendary, no joke, are like the coolest names for like independent studios.
Well, Voltage came because Dean Devlin's company was called Electric Entertainment.
Oh my God. Okay.
And that's where Voltage came from.
That's unbelievable. That's
unbelievable. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to join you. This has been so fun.
Thank you, Jonathan.
I appreciate it.
Hang on 1 second. We're going to log off. Guys, like, subscribe, leave comments down below, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, Jonathan.